Hello and welcome to the channel Xcode Bill. It's your host Bill Yengo. In this video tutorial, we'll be going over some JavaScript higher-order functions. We'll be looking at the map, filter, and the reduce function. Now, hope we have some fun with this one. Enough chit chat. Let's hop in and let's get cracking. So basically, we're going to go over JavaScript map, filter, and reduce function, which are known as higher order functions. With the map, basically, it creates a new array by applying a function to each of the elements, and it therefore returns a new array. So the syntax for that is basically that we do an array.map, and then we pass in a callback function that takes in the current value, the index, and the array. Now, the callback function is required. The current value is required in the callback function. The index and array are all optional, but keep in mind that the return value is a new array which contains transform values. So let's look at that with some code. So I have a folder here that I've created, which is map filter reduce, and we're going to run VS Code on that. Let's bring that in. We should have a terminal here. Hopefully this is clear enough. Let's try to increase that a little bit. And basically, I'm using TypeScript, but you do not have to use TypeScript. I have a list of the data that we're going to use here. We're going to use numbers, words, users, and all that. I do have an interface, but you can change this to .js, and all you have to do is run node-mon field.js based on the folder structure. So we're going to get into the map, right? And what we want to do is we want to create a double of the numbers. So look, we're going to say const double is equals to numbers dot map, and that will basically go through each num. We'll call that num, and all we want to do is num times 2. We want to return number times 2, which should basically give us a double. So if we run npm run map, we should have a log of the words at the bottom and everything. And then we have the original numbers here, and this is the double array. So it returns us a new array of that. So we have 6, 14, 4, which is basically doubles of this. Now the next thing we want to look at is converting the strings to upper cases. So let's comment this out, and let's call this const. Let's copy this so that we don't make errors. So it's equals to words.map. We'll do the same as before. So we look through every single word, and then we just want to return word to uppercase, right? Which is the function that is found on strings. And if we console log this, what do we get? We get hello, which is all caps, and world all caps, and the original list stays the same, right? Let's comment this out. And now we can work with simple values, but we can also work with arrays that contain different data structures like objects and all that. So we currently look at our map, our data, and we have a list of user. And we want to collect the list of names of each user, right? So we say const names is equals to users dot map, and then we map through each user, and we just want to return user dot name, right? So if we comment this out, we should get a list of all the name of the users, which is Bill, Alice, Charlie, and Ebuka. Now we might also want to get the ages, so we can say const ages is equals to users dot map, and now you know the drill, user, and then all we want to do is return the user dot age, right? And if we comment this out and we uncomment this, we get a list of all the ages, which is 18, 16, 21, and 12. If you come to data, you can see the ages here. Now, you can use this format to get things processed through arrays, but you can also use what they call a predicate or a callback function, which means you can put a function that you can pass to the map as a callback. Now, let's say we want to they tell you, let's say your project manager said, okay, fine, I have a list of users in the database, and I want you to look through each of those users and verify them based on specific values. But we're just going to do the simple one, which is basically verify all users. So we're going to create a predicate function, and we'll call that function verify all users. It's going to take in a user. Remember that if you're using JavaScript, you don't need to put the type. You should be fine. And then what we can do is we can just say user dot is verified equals to true, and then we return the user value, right? But then there is a shorter way to do this, which is more professional. So you can basically say, okay, fine, I want to return an object, and I want to spread through the user object, and then I want to set is verified to true. So we get rid of this, and all we can do now is say const users verified is equals to users dot map, and then we pass in the verify all users. Let's put an S here, and let's do the same up here, and then we can log this. So this is our list of users, and then we can print out verified users. And you can see on the list here tells us every user is set to true. So that's our new list. But the original list of users still says it says verified true here, false here, and that should be it for the map. Now, the next thing we're going to look at is the filter options. So higher-order function, which basically means that it's able to select elements based on a specific condition. So it doesn't return you the entire array itself, but returns you a subset of that based on a specific condition. Now, the syntax for that basically is that we do an array.filter, and then we pass it a callback, and in that callback, it takes a current value, an index, and an array, just like the map function. But then the callback function will basically test each element for a specific condition, and then return a new array with elements based on that particular test that was passed. Now, let's get into code, and let's try to see how we can play around with that. So we're going to stop this, and we're going to say npm run filter, which is basically going to run this particular file, and we're logging the numbers and the users. Now, first thing we want to do is we want to get odd and even numbers, right? So we can say const even numbers is equals to numbers dot filter and then we want to go through each number. What we want to do is we want to check, right, if number modulus 2 is equals to 0, that will mean that it's an odd number, right? So we want to return that particular number if you divide that number by 2, the remainder is going to be 0. So we uncomment this. You notice that we get the list of even numbers, which is 2, 6, and 10, which is coming from this particular list. We might also want to get the list of odd numbers. So let's just copy this and let's place this here at the bottom, and then let's change this to odd numbers, right? And all we want to do is say that we want to do the inverse of that, and then we can uncomment this, and then you notice that we basically have all the odd numbers from the original list, which is 3, 7, 9, and 5. Now, like we said, you can work with more interesting objects or array of objects. So we have our list of users, right? Let's comment this out. We want to filter through users. So let's say that for some reason the company says provide us the list of adults, which basically means a list of users who are above the age of 18. So we can say const adults is equals to users dot filter. Now you can also use a predicate function like we used on the map, and then you can say for each user, what I want to do is check, right, if a user dot age is greater than or equals to 18, right? So this is our age that tells us that this user is an adult. So if we log that in and then we say adult users, you notice that we get users Bill and Charlie that are 18 and 21 years of age. Now, if we look at our data, see that should be the case. Now, the next thing we will look at is reduce functions, which basically it takes an array and then returns a single value. That value could be an array, it could be an object, it could be whatever. But the main thing is that it returns a single value. It doesn't return that specific array, unlike map and filter. Now, the syntax for that is for the reduce. We pass in a callback function that takes in the accumulator, which could start from any specific value, and then we pass in an initial value for that. So at the beginning of that, of looping through each item, it's going to have an initial value, and then it's going to loop through each current value. You can also pass the index and the array, which are both optional. And let's do an npm run reduce. This is going to be an interesting one. So basically, we want to get the sum of the array, right? So what we're going to do is we are going to say const sum is equals to numbers dot reduce. So when we do that, we can pass in the accumulator, and then we can go through each number, which is a current value. You can call this num, you can call this current. It doesn't really matter. The main thing is that these are the things that you pass in. And then we want to say for the accumulator, we want the accumulator plus the current value. So it's going to loop through that. And we want our initial accumulator to be set to the value of 0. And then if we print that out, we have sum, which should get us 42. Now, I haven't calculated that, but I think that should be quite accurate. You can go ahead and add up the numbers to see that, which is 42, but I think it should. Let's uncomment this out. Let's say we want to get the maximum number from this list, which probably should be 10, right? So what we do is we say const max is equals to numbers dot reduce, and then we get the accumulator, and then we get each current value as we look through our list. And all we can do is we can set the fine. We check, right? Our current number is greater than the accumulator. We want to return that current number. If not, we want to return the accumulator, right? And then we want to start from the first item in our array. So we say numbers, and then we get the first item. Remember that arrays are indexed from the number 0. So let's uncomment this and let's print that, and hopefully we get 10. That is a max. Now, if you want to get the minimum value, all you have to do is copy this, and then you make an inverse of that relation. And then let's call this min, and let's create a new, let's copy this out, and let's say min, and replace this to min as well. So if we paste that, all we have to do is check if it is less than and not greater than. I think we should get the value 2. So the minimum value in our array is 2. Now, we already did an odd number when we looked at the map. We can also get the odd number by using the reduce, right? So how do we do that? So we're going to say const even number. That should be okay, even numbers. Okay, it's equals to numbers dot reduce, and you know the drill by now. We pass in the accumulator. Let's just call this num. Never mind, let's call this current. And this one is a little bit interesting, right? So what we want to do is we want to check, right? Sorry about that. We want to check if the current, we divide that or get a modulus of 2, and we want to check if it equals to 0. Now, if that is the case, we want to say accumulator dot concat, and then we want to pass in the current number. If not, we want to return the accumulator, and then our initial array will be an empty array. And because we're using TypeScript, if you're using just JavaScript, you don't have to do this. So we want to type this as a list of numbers. And then once we do that, we uncomment this. And you notice that we're going to get 2, 6, 10. And this is going to represent our list of even numbers. Hey, you made it to the end of the video. Good job. If you did like the content, please leave a like. Subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to leave a comment. If you would like to see some specific content, leave a comment down below and I'll make some content for that. Thanks again. Until next time, stay blessed and in good health.